Hi, I'm Paul Golden. I'm talking about travelling midwifery. What are the interesting bits, the challenging bits, maybe all of it. The right to private and family life is Article 8 of the United Nations Convention on Human Rights. This applies for women to choose how and where to give birth. It also applies to midwives who have the right to work. Each country will have its own various laws which may not meet international laws, and this is an international human right. So one country might say you have to speak their language to be a midwife in their country. That doesn't fit with the international laws. So there's an argument that midwives do have a right to work with women however and wherever they choose to birth. For example, if that's at home in the Balkans and there are no home birth midwives, of course the midwife who attends a woman there will be providing hopefully a great service to her. Equipment wise, it's the same everywhere. I have some background noise, and that's life, that's challenges, and we just ride with it. The equipment we need is our head, our heart and our hands, and a sonic aid is useful, suture material, lignocaine. If there's drugs for hemorrhage like syntocinon, ergometrin, sintimetrin, catheters for the emptying the bladder, which can help if the placenta is delayed in coming. But generally, I've worked in hospitals over 30 years. I've worked in intensive care units, and when I work with home birth, it's so simple. And what I realised, a lot of what we did in hospital, we did it for the hospital, not for the woman. We would do things like speed up the birth of the baby, speed up the birth of the placenta. The baby will come when they're ready, the placenta will come when it's ready. A lot of the patience and time is because we don't have 10 or 20 or 30 people to look after, which we would in a hospital. At home we have one person, a mother and one baby, or maybe twins. We do need to seek out collegial support. So in other words, find people. It could be a doula, it could be the husband, the partner, the sister, the mother, the grandparent, whoever it is, another midwife perhaps. Seek out support, build support structures is what I aim to do. So I'll arrive in a foreign country or foreign city or town, and I will look at what is my plan B, what's the plan C, how do I get to the hospital, can they do cesareans if that's needed and required, and it's the woman's choice. This balance about what's the woman's choice. Some women have said to me, Paul, I need you to tell me if I need to go to hospital. And I still see everything as their choice. However, we can present information in ways where the woman knows she really needs to go to hospital. But if I'm going to take somebody to hospital and know that the hospital will treat her badly, which does happen a lot in many countries, then if I can gently persist and do something at home, for example, if I think the tear, if she's torn badly, I took a woman in India into the hospital. They made her wait all day and they charged her the same amount as a whole birth. It was around 3,000 or 4,000 euros or pounds. Absolutely crazy. And it was a penalty for having had a home birth. And the fact they left her for 6, 7, 8 hours. It's an interesting situation. I found myself pushing some of the staff out of the room, and the mother's laying there breastfeeding. They came in and told her, you will kill your baby laying down breastfeeding, they will choke to death. And this kind of dominating behaviour happens quite a lot in many countries. And when I was pushing them out, said, come back when you can be kinder, I realised as a mediator, I have to be kinder. I can't make anybody else be anything I want them to be. So that's true of all our negotiations with hospitals and staff, or registering the baby's birth. Can't force anything in life, like with a birth. So I'm finding I need to be as kind to myself, to the mother, to the father, to the baby, and also all the administrative or medical staff or other midwives. And it isn't, in fact, if there's a trigger from somebody else, I should welcome that. What can I learn? What is that trigger in me? What's it telling me that I need to learn when something comes up. So I'm talking very philosophically and psychologically. The practicalities are having our head, our heart and our hands, some basic equipment, and having the courage to love, but having a plan B, having an exit route. How do I get out of this tricky situation? How do I protect the family? Does the family need and want protecting? One woman said she didn't want an ambulance if she was bleeding to death. She's previously had a baby, sadly, who's died just before birth, and she did hemorrhage with another midwife, and doesn't want an ambulance because she believes very much in her religious faith that if she were to die, that's okay. I don't want to be the midwife where a woman could be saved, allows herself to die. I could also have a charge for criminal manslaughter, in some countries even homicide. So these are the really gutsy things that midwives need to look at the law on. Gross negligent manslaughter is very rare in some countries and not so rare in others. It has been used to charge the midwife in Australia, for example, and rather than focus on her, I think we should focus on the prosecutor or the persecutor. These people are often just doing a job. They want to score points, they want to look good in their criminal law practice, whether they're a state lawyer or some other kind of lawyer. They're just winning points, winning cases. So to protect ourselves, we need to change from naivety into informed, credible, safe practitioners. Clinically we're safe, we need to be legally safe. So documentation, protecting ourselves. I get a family, if they agree to it, to sign a statement that says we take our own personal responsibility. In a way, that's a liability waiver. It's not really taking away my responsibility, but it goes some way, if I'm in front of a judge or a coroner, to saying, look, the family knew what their choices, what their risks are, and the risks always include potential death of mother and baby or serious injury to mother or baby. That's life. Crossing the road has this. If I buy a Ferrari, maybe I should sign a waiver. The guy who sells me the car is not responsible for my choices. If I drive in a particular way or take particular risks, or if something happens to me, it's not the responsibility of the person who sold me the car or my driving instructor. But somehow with birth, if a midwife attends a birth and the woman chooses to do whatever she does, and maybe it seems risky or not risky, the midwife can often be blamed. Why didn't you make the woman go to hospital? And it's not our job to make the woman do anything. So there's a lot of reality about risk. I don't even focus on this word risk. I do want to know what a woman wants. She needs to be quite clear about what she wants. When she doesn't, or she's not very present in herself, I'm not so sure that's the woman for me to work with. She needs to know what she wants, how she's going to do that, and I'm with her on her journey. Some women want to give all the responsibility to the midwife as if it's our journey, and then blame us. And many clients can love the midwife and then hate the midwife, especially if they got a result that's not what they wanted. And some women have had a great birth, but they had a small tear, and they are for years blaming the midwife for this. So protecting ourselves means being in balance, checking with ourselves, what do I need? And I might need somebody to sign this statement, or a partner to be clear about what he or she wants. Sometimes a partner can be quite helpful or even hostile. So it's how to navigate these things. I think that life is a journey and the midwife is on that journey, but if we think we know it all and we are the clever ones, this is when a problem will come along. We need to keep open with, just being open to ideas and being in the flow. Things will change. Things can change very fast, from mothers breastfeeding a baby really well, suddenly there's a gush of blood. Can we manage that at home? Do we need to transfer? And we don't often know until retrospect. So how will it look when we're looking back on something? This is something I'm often asking myself. Another thing I often say to myself is, what if I'm wrong? So I'll have given some advice, I'll have thought out a plan of action, and even to myself or perhaps to the family, I say, what if I'm wrong? What if it's this or if it's this? So it's really up for discussion. It's your choice. What would you like to do? So if you're thinking of working, traveling around the world, it's a wonderful thing to do. You just got to trust your instincts, your intuition. You've got to ask and connect, especially with your enemies, the people who you think are bad or wrong. Go and find out what's making them tick, what's their motivating factors, and you'll find it's usually fear. So if we're working with love and we're the really good guys and there's the bad guy working from fear, actually everyone's a wounded child. Everyone has love and fear. So if we can go and find out what are their triggers, what do they need? Okay, you cannot come to this hospital if your woman needs to come in. Okay. So what would it take for you to agree for the woman to come in to your hospital? Even when they've just told you they won't agree to something, you can explore possibilities. I like the mediation language, where we can say, well, what if this happens, or what if that happens? What could we do then? Okay, so we've got this agreement, and if something else comes along to change things, can we make an agreement for that? So maybe this doesn't help talking about every possibility, but I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I have had a few challenges. I don't think anything that significant, and I see all these challenges as opportunities to learn more and share more. I'm sure there's more that I would like to share with you, and I will put some other ideas together. This is a very brief idea about what I do. So whether it's India or Asia, generally Africa perhaps, even in Europe, people work in the UK, in America, and countries that didn't recognize certain types of midwifery, especially since COVID, are more desperately looking to have midwifery help and support. Apparently in the whole world there's 900,000 midwives short. In the UK, maybe it's between 5 and 10,000 short. So there's a desperate shortage. Why? We don't look after midwives. There's a lack of retention in employed situations, and even in New Zealand, where the government funded independent midwifery, which is 45% of the midwives are independent, the burnout rate has moved from about 15 years down to 6 years that a midwife will work and then leave. Why do they leave? The burnout is working too many hours, too much on call, for too many women, for too little money. It's a great idea in New Zealand to have 4 women a month for 10 months of the year. You have a month's holiday in the winter, a month's holiday in the summer. Many other midwives I know are taking far too many women. I will take 1 a month or 1 every 2 or 3 months. I can really focus on that family. I can also focus on my family, my other activities of writing and teaching, and even another type of work. And this gives me balance. I'm an artist, I'm a musician. And if I'm purely a midwife and I don't give birth to my own artist, my own musician work, then I'm suffering. I'm becoming narrow focused on birth, and this isn't healthy. So for me, the wider perspective I have, the healthier perspective I bring to women in birth. Okay, let's see how this goes.